It was at least damp for most of practice, but in qualifying it was Scott McLaughlin who got it on pole. The two Red Bull cars managed second and fourth, with Andre Heimgartner driving well into third. In race for the Grid 1, there were issues for James Moffat in Chaz Mostert's car, hitting his teammate and damaging his steering. Bryce Forward, Will Brown and Thomas Randall were all very impressive, but Lowndes destroyed the field to take the win. In race for the Grid 2, there were even wetter conditions, but half of the field went for slicks, which mixed up the grid. Anton De Pasquale was hit by Shane van Gisbergen in turn 1, but Anton got the penalty, which is not the first questionable decision this weekend. DJR Team Penske got fined $50,000 after an engine breach in Bathurst, stripping McLaughlin of his pole, but not his race win. Supposedly, they changed the engines before the race, so that stands, but what if that engine has the same breach? I know engines are tested, and I have so many other questions about this case, but I'm very uninformed, so I'll just stop there. Whincup drove away from the field decisively, Heimgartner had a good drive into second, Mostert came through the field impressively to recover to 8th, and Shane van Gisbergen and McLaughlin were forced to start from the back for race 29 dramas and engine penalties respectively. With the co-drivers starting, there were a few stallers on the grid. Prema and Tanda and the championship cars gained 6 and 8 spots off the start respectively. Luke Youlden dropped from 3rd to 10th after a late dive from Jake Kostecki at turn 9. Richard Muscat was involved in yet another incident where he turned Tony D'Alberto in a cluster incident that also left Ash Wolf damaged. Things settled down after 15 laps of breathless racing, but the mixed-up grid really brought the action in this race. Interestingly, the race was strategised in two halves. Firstly, the co-driver part of the race, where cars came in as early as lap 17 to make sure they could get to lap 54, which was the critical lap number in terms of driver time. There were so many ways of doing this, and this made for a fantastic strategic race, even if it lacked a little in on-track battles. A huge crash involving Youlden and Dale Wood brought out the first safety car of the race, and as only some of the cars had pitted, it really benefited around 5 cars, including Garth Tander in Shane van Gisbergen's car and Tony D'Alberto. Lowndes was in the lead on the restart, but behind him the order was shuffled dramatically. This safety car also added a layer to the strategy game. Jake Kostecki was in the thick of it, first spearing Caruso into the wall after an unlucky tangle of wheels, and then getting dived by Will Brown at turn 9. Brown would hit bad luck later with a puncture, forcing him to do an extra stint, which didn't faze him, mind you, as he drove 83 laps in the end. By lap 46, it was the Red Bull 1-2 again, after a fantastic drive through the field for Tander. After the drivers thought there was still a decent amount of battling to keep us entertained, and we also had this unusual sight of Scott McLaughlin down in 20th. Scott Pye made the unusual decision to start his car, but with co-driver Warren Luff they played a blinder and got up to second by the halfway mark. Surprising to me was the amount of brake changes throughout the race. This wasn't due to wear issues, but most teams decided it was worth the change for the performance gain that could be had from this. Battles steadily became few and far between, but the battle for the lead was still gripping, even if it wasn't an on-track one. Mostert was also having a late charge on a good return after the Gold Coast event, where he wrote off his car. He would fight off Holdsworth for second in the end. Van Gisbergen showed that he was the fastest man all weekend by closing up to Whincup and passing him just before his final stop. This gave him near certain victory, as he had a final shorter stop anyway. But motorsport is cruel, and Van Gisbergen suffered a big problem, with just 10 laps to go causing him to pit. This handed the victory to Whincup, and more importantly the championship to McLaughlin, who had a difficult time in the last couple of rounds and only managed 9th on this occasion. Tickford Racing had a good race after a tricky Enduro Cup so far, getting a double podium finish, and the Kostecki brothers had a great weekend after a difficult campaign, even leading the race at one point and running inside the top 10 for a very long time in the first part of the race. There was a lot of unjustified anger this weekend, from James Moffat and Cam Walters in particular in interviews. Moffat had a go at Prema, who didn't do much wrong in all honesty, and didn't cause his eventual demise either, and Walter wasn't impressed with the, quote, stupid wildcard entry after an unlucky crash in the main race. Something also very disappointing to me was the sight of the runoff at turn 6. I understand the safety reasons for doing this, but it really gives an all too easy escape route for people, particularly when in battle. I'm really against this on all circuits, and this corner is just another one to add to the list. Let's just hope the rest of the circuit stays natural and with character, instead of what's happened with other notable circuits recently. Thank you very much for watching this review on the Sandown 500. I'll be covering the Newcastle 500 in a couple of weeks, but until then, I hope you see you soon. Goodbye.